Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Championship here from Amsterdam. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Luis Scott-Vargas. Let's meet the players that we're going to see in this particular feature match.
中村修平です、日本から来ました、去年は54点のプロポイントで、この大会に招待されています、今日というか明日なんですけど使うデッキは、両方のフォーマットとも青白赤のトリコロールっていうデッキですね。頑張ります。
Reid Duke, United States, 52 pro points last season, playing Jund in Standard, playing Hexproof in Modern.
All right, an intimidating look at Reid Duke there with that stare down at the end. We saw that he's got 111 lifetime pro points, 52 last season. You can tell that he's on a sharp upswing for his career here.
Yeah, he has almost 20% of Shuhei's lifetime pro points.
Yeah, I would put that on Shuhei, not on Reid. But
Yeah.
Right away, veteran armor for Reid Duke is the first play of the game on his side of the table. Shuhei Nakamura, though, has two nice openers here. He's got an Aether Spellbomb into a Wrathy Trapper.
Yeah, and looking at Shuhei's deck list, he's actually kind of like Esper Affinity. He's a little lighter on the Affinity than you'd want to be.
Okay.
But he does have a very strong artifact theme going here.
All right. Yeah, Wrathy Trapper, very good on its own, good in the Rebels deck as well.
And you can see that he just drew a Mirror Enforcer, so yeah, that is certainly the direction he's going.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it looks like he went for the Affinity deck and almost got there, which he certainly has a good amount of it, but
Okay.
it's not like Ben, for example, the deck that Ben Stark drafted is like super turbo Affinity, where Ben took Sanctum Gargle over Maloku, which is
Wow.
an insane pick.
Especially because you are playing blue in that deck.
Ben's blue-white, but I think it was right for his deck, whereas Shuhei, I don't think would have done that in his deck because he wasn't so all in.
Okay.
But looks like Reid has a decent start. 2-drop into 3-drop is not bad, and there's a pretty good chance he follows us up here with a Blight Speaker, considering that is what his deck has a lot of.
That's right. We saw 3 Blight Speakers at the end of the first round of Modern Masters draft here.
There we go.
Reid.
So he's even got another one in reserve with a drag down too, which can probably end up killing Shuhei's Wrathy Trapper. One other thing that's really cool about Shuhei's deck is that he's got Auriok Salvagers.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, so he can go off.
Wow.
He can go off with his both Pyrite and Aether Spellbombs, and he can even use Pyrite Spellbomb off of red with Vivid Marsh or Glimmervoid.
Okay, and I saw that he does have that in his hand as well to go along with the other Spellbomb, Aether Spellbomb, on the battlefield for him.
Yeah, so he's just short the Salvagers.
Yes, the key
That
piece
is
to
all.
that particular combo.
So he's got some options here. He can play a Spellbomb and a Mirror Enforcer, but he would not then be able to, or no, he's actually one short of playing Mirror
Right.
Enforcer since he doesn't have he already played a land. So it looks like he's going to be able to just play 2 artifacts, use Wrathy Trapper, and then next turn he'll be able to play Mirror Enforcer for just 3 mana.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, though, Reid is going to get to untap with a Blight Speaker and 4 mana here. So
Yeah.
the searching party is going to.
The parade will begin.
Yeah, the search party's out for sure.
Yeah, and even though Shuhei can stop Reid from attacking this turn, he can just tap down the Changeling, and if Armor attacks, Shuhei gets to double block and then immediately retrieve the Arcbound Stinger. But Reid is, again, pretty content to sit back on Blight Speaker since he's not really under any pressure. Shuhei does have a bunch of spell bombs, but Mirror Enforcer is not really going to face down Reid's Rebel army all that well. So Reid, it looks like he is willing to trade there for the Mirror Retriever, which I guess he figured we'll probably get back a spell bomb or what have you later anyway, so you might as well just trade for it now.
Right. Court Homunculus off the top for Shuhei.
Yeah, that's not a bad draw. I mean, it's a 0 mana 2/2 when it comes down to like make Mirror Enforcer cheaper.
Right.
So he can use Wrathy Trapper or he can just play Mirror Enforcer, and I imagine he just wants to go ahead and play either the Stinger or the Enforcer. It looks like he's worried about what Reid might search up with Wrathy Trapper. So.
He doesn't want to play that Enforcer right into a Bound in Silence. Is that?
Yeah. So now he's just going to leave up both his bombs and the Wrathy Trapper. Most importantly, the Aether Spellbomb, of course.
Right.
He doesn't know that Well, he may not have looked at Reid's deck list because Reid does not actually have a Bound in Silence. So Shuhei is likely aware of that. Maybe he just wanted to keep Wrathy Trapper up instead of casting Mirror Enforcer, though Reid getting Saltfield Recluse makes it so hard for Shuhei to mount an offense.
That's right. If you can find a red source for that Pirate Spellbomb, it could do some work. Do you think he's just going to cycle it away and draw a card here, or do you think he's going to let it sit out there?
Well, he only has 2 red sources in the deck.
Okay.
Unless he also has a Paradise... Oh, he has 3, actually, because he has Paradise Mantle.
Okay.
So I could see him waiting on it, but my guess is that he's more likely to cycle it.
Okay.
Especially since finding Auriok Salvagers is one of his best paths to victory here.
Right.
Or his Elspeth Knight Errant, since he does have one of those as well. So yeah, there goes the Pirate Spellbomb.
He drew a
One of
Ethereum Sculptor.
One of his multiple Ethereum Sculptors.
And a Plume Veil as
Ooh,
well.
Plume Veil could be nice. I mean, that can pick off an Avian Changeling, so that's...
It's kind of awkward, though, right?
You, don't tap?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Well, the way he gets around that is he, taps his mana such that he doesn't have a Trapper up. He, taps something on his turn or something. Just something, mildly awkward.
Right.
So, looks like the Stinger's going to come in for a 0, which does not sting. And then, so Shuhei can play the Mirror Enforcer here.
He can, and he can leave up black mana
Yeah,
still.
since Ethereum Sculptor does double duty in that regard.
It does indeed.
So, I mean, this is a pretty good start, except the fact that Reid's just drawing an extra card every turn off his Blight Speaker
Right.
and putting it into play directly.
Yes, he's just playing lands and then taking his cards from his library into play, and then he's going to get to still stock up his actual hand for when he runs out.
Yeah, so he's drawing drag downs and kitchen finks and whatnot. So
And they're just sitting there in his hand.
yeah,
All right, there's a Wrathy Trapper for Reid Duke, though he does only have 1 black source currently, so that could put a little crimp in it, but
yeah. So picking up a Trapper is pretty nice since now he gets to use Trapper, use Blight Speaker. Again, not really take any damage. Have Saltfield Recluse to stop the smaller creatures like
Yeah.
Court Homunculus.
yeah, he's just in full grind mode here.
Yeah, you do a Thysis, which is not the easiest to cast, but especially since he's pretty far away from having a quad black here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're mostly looking from Shuhei's perspective. I think the best card that he could possibly draw would be Auriok Salvagers, because then he
Right.
would get to bounce a bunch of creatures with the Aether Spellbomb, and then eventually, if he draws a red, go off with Pirate Spellbomb as well, which
Right.
does a fair amount of work. So this card's also been featured in combo decks with Black Lotus or Lion's Eye Diamond to go infinite, but
Right.
that's probably not happening here.
he can aim high, but not quite that high.
Yeah.
All right, another activation here for Reid Duke. It's going to bring out the second Blight Speaker. So far, that first Blight Speaker doing serious work here for Reid.
Yeah, I mean, as they did against Josh. I mean, Blight Speaker's kind of the engine of his entire deck. So.
Right. Also, Reid Duke not currently under any pressure, really.
Yeah, I mean, Shuhei actually can't even really attack. I mean, Saltfield Recluse plus Wrathy Trapper goes a long way.
Yeah, and those Blight Speakers just start eating away at your life total at some point.
Yeah, and again, redrawing 2 cards a turn, basically off the Rebel Searchers, means that he's getting further and further ahead as things go.
All right, so Reid said, I'm going to go to attacks, and Shuhei said, sure. So Reid has to know that something's going on there.
Yeah, so this actually gets kind of cool. When Reid attacks with Avian Changeling, Shuhei then uses Wrathy Trapper on Reid's Wrathy Trapper.
Yes.
And then plays the Plume Veil.
Yeah, it's nice. That is the thing, because Reid figures, well, look, whatever he does, I can tap it down, but he's got to
Yeah.
see the other Trapper if he wants to figure it out. All right, so Reid sends in the Avian Changeling, and here's Shuhei. Tap your Trapper.
Yeah, Reid is getting trapped.
He is indeed.
I mean, Drag Down plus Saltfield Recluse means he could save his Avian Changeling and not have anything die except the Plume Veil, but that does require a card, and Shuhei's got an Aether Spellbomb, so he can choose to trade that off instead.
Right.
But casting the Drag Down here is basically like casting a 2/2 flyer that kills a Plume Veil when it comes into play, so it is likely worth doing. Alright, so Plume Veil becomes a 2/2. And then my guess is shortly becomes an 0/2 off Saltfield Recluse.
Right.
Which this also does open up Reid to getting hit for a decent amount of damage here between Mirror Enforcer and all the assorted little like Cordomunculus and Ethereum Sculptor type
Yeah,
dudes.
he could take 6 or 7 here, though Reid is still sitting at 20.
Yeah, I mean, I think Reid can take a little damage and be none the worse for wear. Though it is something that can open up Shuhei to like maybe draw Elspeth this turn and
start hitting hard.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Though there are a few steps there that he has not taken, such as drawing Elspeth.
It's a plan.
Yeah, so
All right, there's a Kitchen Finks as well for Reid Duke, and
22, 16.
it's 22 for Reid.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Reid
and
having the 6th land to play Kitchen Finks really makes it hard to actually get.
so nasty. He takes 1 turn off from activating his Blight Speaker, and he just plays a bunch of sweet stuff anyway.
Yeah, he just plays 2 spells using all his mana. So Shuhei on 3 lands in hand, now 2, but still enough that he's got more than enough land to do everything he needs to do, and then some.
Now, does Shuhei have any way to get ahead on cards that we've seen? Does he have a Perilous Research or careful consideration
I mean,
or something along those
he's
lines?
got Sanctum Gargoyle, which draws him a card. He's got the Salvagers, and he's got Elspeth. He also has a Mole Drifter, so
A Mole Drifter,
he's
okay.
got a couple of methods to get ahead. Fairy Mechanist can find like a Sanctum Gargoyle and kind of chain off that way.
Okay.
Especially with a sculptor, Ethereum Sculptor in play, that is a pretty reasonable thing to do. But he's still falling so far behind here that he is going to need some sequence of cards, not even just 1 card. But the cool thing about Modern Masters is everyone gets to access to all these really, really powerful cards.
Right.
So even games that look very close, all of a sudden you have a Death Denied for 6 happening.
That's right. We can ask Reid Duke about that one.
Yeah, so Reid's still with a fair amount of options in hand. Though, again, the Thysis is not getting anywhere close. He might just be suspending it, though. I think playing the Blight Speaker is probably safer here. So,
All of a sudden, the Blight Speakers are commanding a lot of the attention on the board here.
yeah, I mean, they're soon going to be pecking away at Shuhei's life total, though he's certainly not mounting much of a resistance.
Right.
I think Reid is even at the point where he could, if he wanted to, start like tapping down Mirror Enforcer and then maybe attacking with Kitchen Finks,
Right.
depending on what Shuhei does with his Wrathy Trapper. He's out of Blight Speakers, but I think he's got quite enough other things to get.
Now a second, or is that a
That's an Amru Scout, yeah.
Scout, right?
Which means he could now double search and use 2 Blight Speakers to ping if he draws an 8th land, but he's getting pretty low on actual targets here.
Right. He might not have 2 left.
Yeah.
He did draw that land.
Yeah.
Also a second swamp finally.
Attack.
Do you think we're going to see a Tysis suspended this turn?
No, I think he's close enough that he's just going to keep it to cast. Like
he needs
suspending
two
it is
more
just
swamps.
five turns away, and it gives Shuhei the foreknowledge that it's coming.
Yeah.
It's a much more effective card, and you can just out of nowhere deal 8 to them off their Mirror Enforcer. You could also, if you want, use double Blight Speaker this turn, or Blight Speaker Amru Scout. So that might be a consideration. Shuhei did draw the Sanctum Gargoyle, so he's able to kind of get back into it a little bit. At least draw an extra card.
There's Sanctum Gargoyle. So I'm going to pay 3 mana because of the Ethereum Sculptor. And he's going to get the Aether Spellbomb back, which then he gets to play for free, again, because of the Ethereum Sculptor.
Yeah, so it's quite a bit of mana savings, but and it will again draw him an extra card. But Reid also is taking use of drawing extra cards.
That's right. And at this point, Shuhei needs big things to happen, right? He can't just start grinding out a card here and there.
No,
He's been buried in card advantage by Reid Duke. I mean, look at Reid Duke's board state now. That's all from that Blight Speaker almost.
Yeah, basically, like he has. I don't think even anything left at this point. Like, I think he's gotten all the rebels he can get, which is not to say that he has a few. He has he has a lot. Sadly for Reid, Figure of Destiny is not a rebel. So he's gonna. Looks like casting Drag Down on the Wrathy Trapper and then pinging Shuhei for 3. As well as using Wrathy Trapper on Mirror Enforcer and starting to attack with, like, Kitchen Finks, for example.
Wrathy Trapper's a nice target for drag down.
Oh, it looks like he's. Yeah.
What did he do?
Oh, it looks like he's getting the Sanctum Gargoyle instead so he can attack with the Avian Changeling.
Ah, okay.
But yeah.
But yeah, I like hitting the trapper there as well. Also because it's much harder to get back into Shuhei's hand than an artifact would be.
Yeah, he's not able to do that. Looks like Reid could actually just lethal Shuhei with Gleam of Resistance he just drew. Like, tap a guy with Wrathy Trapper, shoot you 3 times with Blade Speakers, shrink a guy with Saltfield Recluse, and then...
yeah, Reid's going to take the more patient route here, of course.
Yeah, I mean...
He doesn't need to take on any unnecessary risk, though he is sitting at 21. It would take something along the lines of Stir the Pride with Entwine or something like that to really get him.
Forest trump the domains for 4.
That.
I mean, that could happen in these formats.
It can happen.
So
it's unlikely, but it can happen.
All right, Muldrifter offers Shuhei a glimmer of hope, though. With Gleam in hand, it's going to be really hard for him not to die. He's also just dead off Blight Speakers, just pinging plus Gleam.
Right.
He's kind of going off here, which is at least fun. It's actually kind of good for Reid that this is happening, because now he gets to see more of Shuhei's deck. I mean, he had the access to the pool, but he can see how Shuhei ended up building things. As Shuhei ships Auric Salvagers to the bottom.
He just bricks. No, he's going to show him. He was thinking about just not even revealing it, but he did.
Yeah. Reid just curious how much it costs to equip Paradise Mantle, which is probably not going to happen this game.
Tap your flyer. You take 3 as well. And Reid is setting up for the kill here.
Yeah, he can. He has a number of ways he can approach this. I mean, Shuhei's tapped out, so he can shoot him down to 2.
Ben Stark up a game over Craig Wesco on the side table.
Tap.
Yeah. Reid is going through a lot of stuff, but at the end he's just going to cast Gleam and then Blight Speaker him to death. It is cool how in this format Gleam interacts with so many of the tap abilities of the cards in the set.
Yeah. All right, so Reid Duke manages to take the first game against Shuhei Nakamura here in round 2 from the World Championship in Amsterdam. We'd like to thank Card House Games for being an official card retailer here at Worlds Week. Enter the code AMS10 when ordering at cardhousegames.com for 10% off your next purchase. For more information, visit cardhouse.com. All right, so it's sideboard time here for our future match competitors. And what do you like here? Is there anything obvious on Shuhei's side? It doesn't seem like he has a lot of great answers for the type of threats that Reid puts up. Like, does Shuhei? I saw the Pyrite Spell Bomb. Does he have another way to just take out a Blight Speaker? Does he have any, I don't know, a Pepper Smoke or just something to deal with one of those?
So Shuhei actually has 2 Pepper Smokes in his sideboard, as well as 2 Dream Spoiler Witches and 2 Thieving Sprites. So my guess is that he was trying to draft a Fairies deck and he ended up going to Affinity instead. But I wouldn't be incredibly surprised if he ended up
moving all those
subbing
in.
more into that direction.
It just seems so good versus what Reid's putting forth. I mean, those.
Yeah, he could also even put in a Reach Through Mists if he had both the Dream Spoilers in. That is a pretty dramatic change, and it weakens a lot of his other cards, though. So.
Right, and that's one of the downsides of playing of having such linear archetypes. Right, is that you don't have a ton of flexibility. For example, Shuhei's deck is an artifact deck, and any time that you take an artifact out of that deck, it gets a little bit worse and a little bit worse, and at some point, it starts to become kind of just bad.
Yeah, it looks like he was putting in a swamp, so I think he might be siding in at the very least some of the Pepper Smokes. Shuhei also has 2 Katakis in his sideboard.
Does he really?
Yeah. I don't think he's
Make sure
bringing those
nobody
ones in.
got those.
Yeah. And Reid just has the Dispeller's Capsule, which he's definitely bringing in. He did not have a Tarashi's Grasp. That's the other interesting card.
Yes.
For this matchup. But he could also put in a Fairy Macabre if you really wanted to, if you're worried about Sanctum Gargoyle and Auric Salvagers. So that's not unreasonable. It's not very good value, but I guess if they're going off with Auric Salvagers, you kind of do need something.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, is Reid looking at Shuhei's list right now? Is that so he knows that Salvagers is in there, and he has to feel like, looking at the last game, that if Shuhei doesn't have answers for those Blight Speakers, that he's gonna. Okay, so that was a dream spoiler, which is that I just saw Shuhei put into his sleeve.
Yeah. So
he's moving in that direction. I think that he feels like this is not a great matchup for him, so he's going to need to make some drastic changes.
yeah, it looks like Shahar's up a game against Willie. With Shahar has the mono red deck with 3 Thundercloud Shamans.
Yes, we caught a tweet from David Ochoa where he had posted a picture of the checkbox where it's you're supposed to register how many copies of a certain card you have, and it had Thundercloud Shaman 3.
Yeah.
And we're like, well,
Not
man,
good news for his Thallid deck.
for Thallid's deck, but yeah, mono red from Shahar. You don't see monocolored decks very often in Modern Masters. I have seen a couple, but yeah, very seldom.
It's pretty difficult to actually end up monocolored.
There's also not a lot of incentive to do so.
Yeah.
You know, the linear archetypes are generally 2-color
Yeah.
decks, and the mana fixing comes pretty nicely in this set. I mean, the basic land cyclers, the vivid lands, terramorphic expanse all make it pretty easy to get colors.
Yeah, Shahar is, I think, mostly mono red because he just has all red cards, and because he has Figure of Destiny as like kind of like a hook to get to be into mono red.
I like that.
Yeah, Figure of Destiny is not bad. I mean, he obviously could have played white as well with it, but I think he decided to avoid that. It's a pretty potentially a drastic sideboard plan out of Shuhei. I mean, he could just be putting in like the 4 cards, but for the most part, it doesn't take a whole deck adjustment just to fit in 2 Pepper Smoke, 2 Dream Spoiler, which is a couple more swamps and maybe a couple of your worse like artifact cards, and just kind of go a little more mid-range.
Right.
So it looks like Shuhei's choosing to play first, which, a deck with Mirror Enforcer and, Fairy Mechanists and Therium Sculptors is probably more likely to do so. So you hear Kibler in the
You get
background.
the trademark Kibler,
Yeah.
Kibler giggle there in the background. I heard from Sheldon that he's got a sort of light and shadow on the battlefield, so that would explain the laughter. Okay, so the reason Kibler was laughing was more out of astonishment. He actually lost from Yuya had top decked a Mad Ante and swung in with a whole bunch of much bigger goblins than they used to be.
Well, shoot.
All right, so did you get a look at Shuhei's hand there? We just had a
Yeah,
close-up
well, he
of
has
it.
the whole sideboard plan in hand. He's got the Dream Spoiler Witches and the Pepper Smoke.
Oh,
so-
beautiful. And a swamp?
in a swamp.
All right.
Not the fastest hand, but I mean, when you side on those cards, then that's kind of like what you're signing up for.
Right. Reid Duke is mulliganing to 6 here. He's up a game. This is round 2 of the World Championship. We're playing Modern Masters Draft, one of the more popular and sought-after draft formats of recent memory. It's a big hit, and I got to say, when it was developed, this is the crew it was developed for, the hardcore and franchise players. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's a ton of fun to draft. I wish it was online a little longer, because
Yeah.
that was awesome when it was on Magic
I
Online.
abused
But
that situation, but yeah, maybe we'll see it again.
yeah, I would not be surprised. I'm holding on to my packs just in case.
Yes.
Looks like Reid is going to 5. A nice one-lander there, which is still not something you want to keep on the draw,
Right.
despite what I do all the time.
Yeah, you're kind of the bane of my existence when it comes to to limited advice, because I'll get into a discussion with somebody who listens to the podcast, and they'll be, but Luis did it, and I'll sort of put my head down like, yeah, I guess so.
I only do it when it's right.
Look, I support you. But
Well, the only good thing about Reid mulling to 5 is that he is up a game, which is always a decent feeling. It's like, well, at least I have game 3.
but you know what's better than that? Being up a game and keeping a nice 7-card hand.
Yes, that is generally more preferable. So, Reid going back to the well here. Let's see what his 5 cards have to offer. Well,
Okay.
looks like he's pleased enough.
He said okay.
And he has a forest in his deck, which is interesting.
Yeah, what is that for?
It's just got to be for the drag down still.
Oh, okay. There's an Aether Vial turn 1 from Reid Duke, so that can help out.
That is good. I mean,
Now, it's worse on a mull, though, right? I mean, you need a lot of cards in hand to make it better. Is that correct?
It depends on the mulligan. I mean, I think there's certainly hands where it is worse, but sometimes it is actually pretty nice if you're just stuck on 2 lands and vialing in 3 and 4 drops. Like, that can be pretty
okay.
sick. So I think the reason Reid switched to a forest, and this makes a lot of sense, is that he has Kitchen Finks, so he can tap it for green. But on the other hand, he has Figure of Destiny, so the mountain also is competitive.
Interesting.
He might have started in one of each.
There could be one of each.
Because he wants to drag down Auriok Salvagers for 4. So Shuhei Artifact less to go with his Court Homunculus, but he's got some good heavy hitters in his hand, even if his draw is not the fastest. Up to and including an Elspeth.
I see he's got a Path to Exile in hand as well.
Yeah, he's got Path to Exile Elspeth. Looks like he's just pathing his own Court Homunculus to get a Plains here. He just wants to get Elspeth online as soon as possible.
Is he going to pepper smoke that guy right now? It would take an extra damage, but he would get a little bit more information about what Reid is up to.
I guess he probably does not. I think he wants to get value. I mean, he could just wait and then pepper smoke it with the Dream Spoiler in play, or he can just Elspeth. He does let Reid start to go off with Blightspeaker though, so there's certainly an element of risk in taking that line if he does not pepper smoke it.
Right, and Reid on 3 lands here is 1 away, but he's gonna. But here it is. So Shuhei just has to kind of hope here that Reid doesn't hit that land, right? I mean, if well, okay, but with the Dream Spoiler Witches, even if Reid were to search up a second Blightspeaker, he could take care of both of them.
Yeah, the only problem with that is that the timing on that is kind of weird. So like, if he shoots the Dream Spoiler with Pepper Smoke, Reid can just get another Blightspeaker. Or if he shoots the Blightspeaker with Pepper Smoke, Reid gets another one and he can't kill it because the trigger's already gone.
Right.
And if he waits, Reid just gets to search with the other one.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, Reid does have that 4th land there, so Shuhei Nakamura, he's got to make some decisions here.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of options. I think even if Reid's searching out Rebels, Shuhei's hand is robust enough to fight against it. But he is in a slightly tougher spot than he would have been if the Blightspeaker had been killed. But
so he's going to play an Arcbound Worker, and that's it for the turn. All right, Ben Stark, a quick 2-game match victory against Craig Wesco there. Not that surprised. Ben Stark's deck looked insane and fast.
Yeah, so if Reid gets a second Rebel Searcher, Shuhei can wait, kill them both, but then they get to search. Since he has to do it on Reid's turn to get the trigger off Dream Spoiler,
right?
Reid does get to search still, but this does time walk Reid a couple turns.
Okay.
This makes Reid use all his mana this turn and all his mana next turn and still end up down 2 Rebels.
Okay.
So he still has one in play, but he is getting set back by Shuhei's Pepper Smoke.
And there's only so many searchers. I mean, we know Reid's got, 3 of them? Okay, so the trigger from Aether Vial's on his stack.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I just passed to...
Yeah, Shuhei wants to see what Reid does with Aether Vial first. Reid has declined to move it up, so might as well not give Reid the information, though it was probably clear that Shuhei had something going on there.
Right. All right, so Reid is going to search in response.
Yeah, for another Blightspeaker, just because he doesn't have anything else in his hand, he really needs the Rebel searching to get him into the game.
Right.
And he has enough life that he can take a couple hits.
Reid did mulligan down to 5 this game, so this is going to help him recoup some of that loss.
Yeah, I mean, Shuhei's going to have a Planeswalker in play fairly soon here, so.
Draw.
And he even drew an Ethereum Sculptor, which not so bad. It is funny how those the Sculptor interacts with Sunburst. It makes the spell cheaper, but it actually puts a limit on how much you can Sunburst.
Oh, weird. I never ran into that.
Yeah. So Reid still a little lacking in the action department here.
Yep, and there it is. Elspeth Knight Errant, one of the best Planeswalkers, especially in Limited, but even in general. And he is going to jump, as we say, his Arcbound Worker, give it +3/+3, and flying until end of turn, and attack for 6.
Yeah, just hit Reid for 6. So Reid's got a lot of mana, and he's got a Vial, and he's got a Blightspeaker, so Wrathy Trapper's not too bad. That does counter Elspeth's effect to some degree. But Shuhei's got a lot of other stuff going on. He's got, if he draws another blue, he can play Sculptor and Espresso in the same turn, and
Oh,
even if he
geez.
doesn't, he can play one of those cards or play a Sanctum Gargoyle, getting back Pirate Spellbomb. And he even drew an Auriok Salvagers. So he's
Wow,
yeah.
he has drawn really the top end of his deck here.
Yeah.
Auriok Salvagers. He doesn't have a. I mean, he also drew and played Elspeth, plus his removal spells that he boarded in with Dream Spoiler Witches and Pepper Smoke. So pretty nice draw here for Shuhei.
Yeah, Reid does have the option of trading Avian Changeling for Dream Spoiler Witches here, which it looks like he's going to take.
Okay.
Which I think Shuhei's okay with. I mean, he's going to get to play a Sanctum Gargoyle, getting back Pirate Spellbomb, and then set up playing Ethereum Sculptor and a bunch of stuff if he draws a land. So it looks like they will trade. And Shuhei could also slam the Salvagers, but I think slamming Sanctum Gargoyle is a little better. Especially since the next turn you can play Sculptor, play a free Spellbomb, hopefully play a Espresso if you draw an island. Reid could ramp the Vial up, but he's got a couple threes in his deck, so might as well keep it there.
Dispeller's Capsule for Reid Duke off the top.
Yeah, Dispeller.
Not going to do much against because of the Salvagers.
Yeah, I mean it can threaten to like set Shuhei back if Shuhei overcommits, like an Elspeth attack or something.
Okay.
But for the most part, yeah, it is not gonna like long term destroy anything. I mean, he can kill like an Espresso, and that's not too bad. But it's just a removal spell against a hand that's not that bad against removal spells.
All right.
Like it's fairly resilient.
No island off the top for Shuhei, though. It was a swamp, so he's got the numbers of mana.
Yeah, I mean, he can play a Manta. He can play Salvager Spellbomb. Salvager Spellbomb it sets you up pretty nicely for the future. You can play Ethereum Sculptor, but then you can't really follow it up, so you're probably not going to end up doing that. Especially against in the face of Wrathy Trapper and Dispeller's Capsule, Shuhei does not really want to use Elspeth to give +3/+3.
Right.
So he's just probably going to be making a Soldier token here. I mean,
Elspeth already ticked up to 6. She's going to be at 7 here.
yeah, it is funny that Elspeth's ultimate is one of the least used ultimates when it comes down to it.
She is very proficient at getting to that point, as both of her other abilities are plus abilities.
Yeah.
Something that
those
you don't
abilities
see
are-
on Planeswalkers anymore.
No, not for the most part. I mean, her abilities are nice, so. I've played with Elspeth a fair amount of times.
Might even catch a glimpse of some Elspeth in Modern, potentially.
Yeah, she's fairly strong in like the green, white, black junk decks if they end up playing enough white for that. But
They'll just usually play a one of or.
yeah, it's a decent filler there, just as another threat. And so it looks like Ethereum Sculptor potentially into Pirate Spellbomb. And then Shuhei could even cycle a Spellbomb now and hope to draw. I guess he already played his land for his turn, so hoping an island is probably not gonna do a whole lot.
No, it's kind of interesting though, because I mean, Shuhei, if he takes the line that we were talking about earlier with Salvagers and Spellbomb, I mean, with only one island, he gets to play one blue spell per turn, and it kind of crimps that mana. I mean, he's going to cycle that Spellbomb right away.
Yeah, finding it looks like a Fairy Mechanist. So he's got his engine online, even if he didn't have a Planeswalker in play, and he kind of does have a Planeswalker in play. So
Yes, he kind of does. Speaking of engines online, Reid Duke also has his as he's searching up yet another Rebel. He mulliganed to 5, but he's already searched up, 3 or 4?
he searched up 3, and he just drew the Trapper. So he doesn't have a ton left. I mean, he's got the Saltfield Recluse. He's got a third Blight Speaker in there somewhere.
And does he have one more Saltfield Recluse as well?
No, just the one.
Oh, okay.
But he does have access to potentially an Amrou Seekers if he left that in. So he could also have brought in Deep Cavern Imps, but I don't think that was necessarily the case.
Okay. There's an Absorb Viz off the top.
Yeah. It just... you can keep him alive a little longer, but he's not too close to actually killing Shuhei.
Right. Shuhei's sitting at a fairly comfortable 18 life here.
Yeah.
Reid Duke, a little bit less comfortable, though. He's done an admirable job of stabilizing here. Wrathy Trapper plus Dispeller's Capsules kind of put the kibosh on old Elspeth jumping guys into the red zone. So
Yeah, it's you can't really use Elspeth's +1, well, her +1 and +3/+3
right.
against Wrathy Trapper. it does make it so Reid has to tap a 1/1 instead of a flyer.
Right.
So that's not too bad. But for the most part, just getting soldiers is pretty nice. And it looks like Shuhei could pull the trigger on an emblem at some point here, too, to make all his cards indestructible forever. And then he can also... This turn is nice. I mean, he spent his turn casting Ethereum Sculptor, but the payoff for that is that he now gets to cast, like, Skyreach Manta plus Esperzoa or Salvagers plus Esperzoa or something. Almost always plus Esperzoa. The only problem with playing Manta is it would only be a 2/2, so most likely it's just Salvagers Esperzoa this turn. Esperzoa Ethereum Sculptor is a nice combo. You can just return an Arcbound Worker and play it for 0, or return a Sanctum Gargoyle and just kind of go off.
Right.
So yeah, Shuhei's got all his engines online now. Like multiple ways to get back artifacts from the from the graveyard, and a Planeswalker, and a bunch of creatures in play. So even though Reid is searching up an extra creature every turn, he can't do it that many more turns, and the extra creatures he gets are not going to be impressive enough to stop a Shuhei.
All right, Esperzoa down thanks to the Dispeller's Capsule. And another search here for Reid. This might be the last time he gets to do this.
Yeah, unless he board in Deep Cavern Imps, it looks like he's just about out here. So
There's the third Blight Speaker.
yeah, he's got like the Amru Seekers is like the last potential card if he left that in. Which he may not have against, again, a deck with like Court Homunculus and Oryx Salvagers and whatnot.
Right.
So
Yeah, Sanctum Gargoyle.
yeah, Reid's gonna need something fairly gigantic. I mean, he has Artigar Valkyrie in his deck somewhere.
Yeah, that's his big bomb. Otherwise, his deck is very grindy. There's a drag down for Reid Duke. He still has Absorb Viz in his hand. Unfortunately for him, Shuhei's at a very cushy 18 life and really just isn't in range for Absorb Viz to finish him off or anything of the type.
Well, if Reid sided in the mountain, which I think he did, or sided in the forest to go with the mountain, he's going to cycle to get the mountain and then drag down the Oryx Salvagers.
That's interesting. I mean, you said that. You said he might have put in that forest to complement the mountain just so he had access to drag down for 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's important when their Shuhei's best creature is 4 toughness.
Yeah.
So
that was a great call.
looks like
There it is. You figured it out. I like it. This is why we changed you to the desk, Luis.
If only I could figure out a way to get Unchained.
Yeah, you're smart enough to figure that out. But the unlocked chain. All right.
But Reid knows value, and he knows that like Oryx Salvagers is a really tough engine to beat here. So
yeah, that was really good for him because that was going to be insane. I mean, remember the
Spellbomb.
Yeah, the Spellbomb's going to be free.
Yeah, the fact that
thanks
it's
to
like
the Ethereum Sculptor.
At the very worst, it's 3 mana draw card right now, and then if he draws Aether Spellbomb, he just goes off. So Tidal Sculptor would have been a little better earlier. At this point, I mean, even though Reid did have a good turn there, Shuhei still has an Elspeth with 8 counters.
Yeah, he does.
It's just like kind of at the end of the day, it's like this is still going to be pretty tough. A 4/4 Manta, like Shuhei is not out of gas yet.
3/3, it looks like.
Or 3/3 Manta rather.
Yeah.
You said declare attack? Yep.
So Shuhei's going to attack, not attacking, and getting pinged. So it looks like the Amru Seekers are not in the deck anymore. But Reid's hoping he takes Vial up to 6, hoping to draw that Valkyrie for an instant Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I mean, once Vial's to the point where you can just cast all your creatures, you might as well use it for the most ambushing potential.
Right. Reid Duke certainly made a game of this. He had kind of a sketchy start to the game. But as you can see, both players really have enacted their game plans pretty fully here.
Shuhei even going so far as to Ultimate Elspeth. So now all his permanents are just indestructible. Now and forever.
So now he can just grind out a whole bunch of flyers here with Fairy Mechanist.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact that Reid can never beat his guys in combat, like they can bounce at best, means that it's going to be pretty tough for Reid to fight against just even an army of 1/1 soldiers.
So at some point, Shuhei's going to amass a big enough army to start just attacking all the time. Is that the plan now? I mean, the Blight Speakers otherwise are the only thing that can really do damage. All right, well, here goes Shuhei. Looks like that time is now.
Yeah, the time is now since like Reid isn't going to be able to kill Elspeth anyway very easily. And if he does, It involves like losing all his creatures.
Right, losing all his creatures and opening himself up to the
And
big crackback.
that's if he's got a removal spell. So I think Shuhei is going to force this to a game 3 here.
All right, Willie Adel defeats Shahar Shenhar 2-1 to win the match.
Looks like mono red did not pan out. Maybe Shahar got color screwed. So Reid trying to figure out. I mean, if he drew a Gleam, things could get a little interesting. But the fact that Shuhei has ultimate at Elspeth makes it really hard for Reid to, get too much of an advantage. Though Figure of Destiny is a nice one. So Figure with enough planes that he can next turn put it up to the highest level. At which point it gets blocked by Fairy Mechanist forever.
Forever, yeah. But it's a pretty nice blocker.
Yeah, but Shuhei can actually just suicide. Ooh, we even found an Elspeth emblem. Shuhei can just like suicide, as in quotes,
Right.
his whole team because none of them actually die.
Right.
And as long as he doesn't die at the crackback, which Figure does make a lot more dangerous. Like Figure of Destiny is certainly the kind of card that you need to watch out for. Though a Pepper Smoke forces it to the next game.
All right, so Shuhei Nakamura equalizes here. 1 game apiece now between him and Reid Duke as we go into game 3. Qualifiers for the next Pro Tour have begun. You could be on the big stage for Pro Tour Born of the Gods, taking place February 21st to 23rd in Valencia, Spain. For more information, visit wizards.com/PTQ. So far, I have not gotten sick of saying Pro Tour Born of the Gods yet.
Well, that's a
that
sweet name.
Sounds sweet.
So it looks
All right,
like
Reid Duke daydreaming here.
yeah. He's just thinking like, man, I hate mulling to 5. Well, I also hate mulling to 5, so I can sympathize with him.
You can sympathize, yeah, sure. So now Reid, though, it's interesting because the sideboard battle has begun, right? And Shuhei fired the first shot there in game 2 and said, "Look, I'm playing Dream Spoiler Witches. I'm playing Pepper Smokes. I'm now, very actively looking to take out your Blight Speakers and threaten your engine." And now Reid has to try to decide if he has any room in his deck to try to counteract that in some way. And it didn't look like he did much sideboarding there.
Yeah, I mean, I Shuhei certainly has more options than Reid does when it comes to sideboarding, and I do think that even though Reid kind of knows what Shuhei's game plan is, he still just has to run his deck against it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate for him that Shuhei does have the 2 Pepper Smokes. Those are pretty clutch. So it is interesting that Shuhei gets to kind of turn into like a mid-range-ish control deck as opposed to like a beatdown deck. Like he's actually just trying to go for a Sanctum Gargoyle, Fairy Mechanist, Dream Spoiler, which is value.
Yeah, that is what he's doing. And, that's interesting because that is totally viable versus Reid Duke's deck. It's not like Reid's deck is particularly fast. It's also not super powerful in the sense that he has very few just sort of game-ending spells. It really takes a while. He needs the pieces in place, and he will continually activate those rebels until he can get a favorable board state. The deck's good at doing that, but Shuhei's deck has really powerful spells in it. Elspeth and Auriok Salvagers.
Yeah, those are both engines in and of themselves.
Yeah.
And the fact that Shuhei has double Mechanist, Sanctum Gargoyle, and Skyreach Mantas all flyers means that Reid's a little pressured there too because Reid, Rebels gum up the ground, but besides Trapper and Saltfield Recluse, he doesn't have a ton of flyers.
Right.
So it looks like Reid's ready to roll.
And Shuhei has mulliganed.
Yeah. Shuhei does have a lot of ways to recoup the card advantage, and he even has it looks like a Mole Drifter hanging out there too. So like, there are certainly ways for him to get back into it, but I mean, as we said before, nobody likes to mulligan.
Right.
Except Martin. Martin actually likes to mulligan.
He enjoys the act of mulliganing.
Yeah, it's his favorite thing to do.
Oh man, what a sicko!
One thing that is not in Shuhei's favor here is that his engines do take a good amount of mana, like 4 to 5 mana. So he's a little less able to just come back if he keeps like a 2-lander, which is something most Affinity decks don't have a problem with.
Right, that's true. Yeah, Shuhei certainly had to give up something to take this more mid-range approach. He's also probably had to cut a couple of artifacts out, which are going to make his affinity shenanigans a bit worse.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if he actually just cut the Mirror Enforcer. That's the one that
That's the one that
loses
takes the biggest hit?
efficacy the more artifacts you cut, the fastest.
Yeah.
I don't think like you can get away with running Ethereum Sculptor and Sanctum Gargoyle and Fairy Mechanist, but you can't really get away with running Mirror Enforcer if not enough artifacts.
Right.
All right. Well, he does have his Salvagers, so all he needs to do now is draw one of his spell bombs.
All right, the old turn 2 Court Homunculus here. Nope.
Well,
Whoa! I like
of.
that play better than the Court Homunculus. But,
yeah. Well, it's a sneak preview.
Yeah, it's a little sneak preview there from Shuhei.
Which is reasonable.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, Reid might be able to use that information a little bit later. Ooh.
Yeah, for sure.
He just drew an Esperzoa off the top.
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in going for it now.
No. Play it first, get that Homunculus up to a 2/2, bash for 2, and Reid Duke falls to 18 as Shuhei Nakamura passes the turn back to him. Reid Duke, a Darkheart Valkyrie in hand. His most powerful individual spell, the Drag Down's more of a utility removal spell for him. It usually just does -2/-2, but he does have the ability post-board that you noticed, Luis, to get that thing up to -4/-4 if he needs it. And he's got the Absorb Viz in his hand there, too, to do -3/-3 if that was something that he needed.
Yeah.
Avian Changeling seems reasonable here.
But now that he's locked into his fourth land, he's pretty much just going to be using his Rebel Searching for the next couple turns.
Yeah.
At least that's his desire. So looks like Shuhei's got really no choice but to attack and then just probably play Sanctum Gargoyle. He really wishes he could play multiple spells in the same turn, but he's kind of far away from that. The problem with playing Auriok Salvagers here is then the Esperzoa just bounces itself, which is not really a position you want to be in.
No. And right now, Auriok Salvagers isn't really doing that much anyway, right? All right.
So it looks like just the Court Homunculus will come out, with Shuhei being concerned with the Sanctum Gargoyle getting killed, because it is an engine with the Esperzoa.
Yeah.
So it looks like Kibler wins his match against Yuya 2-1.
So that sword got there for him eventually.
Yeah, Sword of Light and Shadow does the trick.
Yeah. Saltfield Recluse there
Yeah,
for Reid Duke.
which does make it a lot harder for Shuhei to kill him. I mean, hitting for 2 a turn is a lot worse than 4 a turn.
Yeah, stage 1 here, and then eventually the other 2 Blight Speakers will come out, and Reid will start grinding away on Shuhei's life total. That's how he wants the game to go, at least.
Yeah, Reid actually kind of just wants to draw lands here for a little while, since drawing random spells, especially since it looks like he drew a Deep Cavern Imp, which is a sideboard card against flyers, which is his weakness, but you don't really want to just cast that. You'd rather leave it in your deck to search out.
That's right, and especially he just wants as many targets as he can have still floating around in his deck. All right, you said you wanted to keep hitting his lands. It looks like that's what he's going to do. He must have another in his hand.
Yeah, well, he's going to cycle Absorb Vis, play a land, and then probably play his 3-drop. He could also drag down the Esperzoa, yeah. So the fact that he has 3 3-drops in his hand means it's really good for him to just go up to 5 lands, play one of his 3 casting cost cards, and then set up next turn.
If he drags that Esperzoa, though, remember Shuhei accidentally flashed that Sanctum Gargoyle earlier in the game, and that makes that play less appealing.
Yeah, I think Avian Changeling might end up being better just because of that. So,
and also Reid doesn't have that next land anyway. All right. Is that a Glimmer Void there?
It is a Glimmer Void, which is good, but
obviously
a little risky.
Yeah.
I mean, Shuhei still has a ton of options here. He can play Glimmer Void and then play like Salvagers or Wrathy Trapper or something plus Court Homunculus, and then it's unlikely that Reid's going to be able to kill both of his artifacts here, though it certainly could happen.
Cards?
So it looks like he's just dropping the Sanctum Gargoyle plus the Court Homunculus here.
Shuhei would love a spell bomb here. He's
Yeah.
got the Salvagers and he's got the Esperzoa plus Sanctum Gargoyle combo going, but he's not really getting ahead with that.
Yeah, he needs a spell bomb to kind of like go off. An Ethereum Sculptor would help there too once he's
Yes.
drawn the spell bomb, but
Yes.
maybe that's looking too far ahead.
Yeah. So Reid Duke now has a Darkar Valkyrie mana, and there it is.
Yeah, it looks like Reid might just, win this the old-fashioned way, just playing your 6-drop 4/5.
Yeah, I mean, he did use his Blight Speaker, but sure.
Yeah, so
The Darkar Valkyrie is kind of a unique card.
yeah, Shuhei picking up the Court Homunculus here. He drew a Tidehollow Sculler, but it was a little too late to snag the Valkyrie. It can still get one of Reid's other two cards, the drag down being the more relevant one generally. But a Darkar Valkyrie is going to still be pretty influential this game. So Shuhei's deciding between the Sculler or the Trapper.
Yeah, only has one black mana source available, so he can't cast both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, part of the problem with the Trapper here is it kind of locks you out of black for quite some time until you draw another swamp.
Yeah.
Which is not really a situation you want to be in, but you can't really take 4 a turn all that often. Sculler's also the safer play, since if Reid does have a removal spell, you get to clear it out first. Shuhei just immediately dragging that one down. But this now opens the door for Reid to start using Blight Speaker and just getting back, to the game to where he wants it to be.
Yeah, now that he's essentially out of gas in hand, he can just start leaning on Blight Speaker, and then he's going to get more Blight Speakers with them, and things are getting out of hand pretty quick here. Shuhei Nakamura falling behind quickly. I mean, he has a reasonable board state. Normally, if you told me player A has Esperzoa, Sanctum Gargoyle, a Sculler with a removal spell under it, and a Court Homunculus, I'd be like, yeah, that's pretty sweet, but he's actually quite a bit behind here.
Yeah, he is not in a good spot, especially since Reid's not only getting to attack him, but he also has the Rebel Searching going, so he's ahead and ahead on in both metrics. Like, he's drawing extra cards and doing damage.
He just drew a Dispeller's Capsule as well, and that's going to give him a nice up.
All right.
Reid Duke unabashedly checking out Shuhei Nakamura's sealed pool here. The players were able to look at the pool of cards that they built. Sorry, not sealed. His draft pool. The pool of cards that they built their draft decks from. They did not get to see the decks themselves. They just got to know which cards were there.
Yeah, they got to figure out what your opponent's going to build out of that, which is generally not that hard. The last card or two you might not know.
Right.
And this is especially sick, but because with Darkar Valkyrie, he gets to actually steal whatever it is he kills here.
Yes. Now, do you think he's going to do that and forego Rebel Searching for a turn, or do you think he's just going to still keep searching?
I think he's going to want to kill the Esperzoa this turn, or not the Esperzoa, the Sanctum Gargoyle, because the Esperzoa plus Sanctum Gargoyle is a pretty annoying combo. On the other hand, if he waits a turn, he can use Dispeller's Capsule and Drag Down in the same turn.
Yeah.
Like killing the Tidehollow Sculler, then casting Drag Down, and that's a pretty sick sequence of plays as well.
And then he also gets the Tidehollow Sculler, or would you expect him to steal something else?
Well, he can wait to see what Shuhei bounces, then maybe get the Tidehollow Sculler and Sculler something, whatever it is that Shuhei bounce back.
Yeah.
So Reid has a lot of options, and they're all excellent.
Yes.
He can also just Rebel Search, like.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be tough for Shuhei to get back into this. If Shuhei bounces that, now Reid can Sculler him if he wants.
And take away the Sanctum Gargoyle.
Yeah. He can wait towards draw step, which gives Shuhei another draw to hit an instant of some kind, but does give Reid slightly more options. So yeah, it looks like Reid's going to wait here. I would not be surprised if he draw stepped this, though. Waiting also does give him the option to just Rebel Search instead, and then next turn do the 2-3 mana plays, which certainly uses your mana in a better fashion.
Yeah, and Rebel Searching here can get him another Blight Speaker,
Yeah.
give him a little bit of redundancy, just in case there's a Pepper Smoke or something. But yeah, he's so far ahead right now. It's going to be really tough for Shuhei to dig himself back out of this. Even with again more strong plays here, Wrathy Trapper, Auriok Salvagers. These are strong, powerful cards that Shuhei's playing, but the raw synergy plus the power level of Reid Duke's cards is just overwhelming him right now.
Yeah, the combo of Darkar Valkyrie plus removal spells is pretty tough to beat.
Yes.
The fact that he can Dispeller's Capsule and then
All right. Quick update from the back table. Yuya and Kibler are actually headed into Game 3.
So looks like their epic match was actually in Game 2 and not
Yes,
Game 3 last time. So lucky for you.
Yes. All right, Wrathy Trapper there for Reid Duke. He must feel pretty safe that his Blight Speaker is not going to die.
Yeah, I mean, he is not really under a whole lot of pressure, and he knows that Shuhei has like a pirate spellbomb to kill the Blight Speaker, and he's got a lot of other fish to fry.
Yeah.
So.
Also, we have to remember that with a Dark-Art Valkyrie on the board, anything that was to be killed can just be saved anyway. So, like, Reid just has redundancy and insurance and safeguards and a nice savings account, and he's feeling quite safe.
Speaking of redundancy, all the words you just said.
Yes. Metagame.
Redundancy, if you will.
Jeez.
So
you got me.
Valkyrie getting in there because, again, there's not a whole lot of risk in attacking with it. And even Shuhei is just chumping at this point. Reid can break up his Sanctum Gargoyle combo if he wants. There, he could Valkyrie that Esperzoa.
It just gets weird because then it goes back to Shuhei's hand, right?
No, he just puts it back into play. But
No,
if
I
he
mean, on
bounces
his
Esperzoa,
upkeep, he's got
he's got a Dispeller's Capsule.
Oh yeah, that's true. He can actually just keep it going.
Yeah, so he can kind of go infinite there. But I
that's
think
funny.
Reid's gonna just let him use the Esperzoa. He can also just tie-ho Sculler the Sanctum Gargoyle once he does this play.
He said upkeep, but it looks like he is going to go ahead and activate that
Yeah.
Dispeller's Capsule on draw step here. And Shuhei is in dire straits here.
Because now he gets to Sculler Shuhei instead of the other way
Right.
around.
Take one of your cards, get my card back, and by the way, hit your hand as well. So brutal here. Reid Duke, he looks like such a nice guy.
Well, yeah,
But I can't see how a nice guy would do these awful things to somebody like Shuhei. This is brutal.
Yeah, what did Shuhei ever do to Reid?
Yeah, no kidding.
I guess he sat down across from him in a match. So.
That's right.
Yep, Shuhei just on empty, whereas Reid has a million things going on. Gets to Rebel Search this turn too.
Now, how is this game going to actually end here? The
Reid's just-
Valkyrie's just going to keep beating down, and then Reid can start tapping stuff down with
Reid
Trapper and just start attacking.
Reid can hit for like 6 this turn with just the 2 flyers, and then like has 2 Blight Speakers. So Shuhei's just dead in like a turn, and he's down like 5 cards.
Right.
So it is not going to be easy for him to get out of this. I actually don't know what he really can draw to do so.
Probably what's going through his mind right now. It also could be what Reid was looking for on that deck list. Certainly more relevant to Reid at that point, trying to decide how do I, you mentioned it in the last match, Luis. It's the how do I lose?
Yeah,
It becomes the question at some point.
Yeah, and I think Reid's got to be thinking that too. But the answer is I don't really know. Not like.
I mean, he
Shuhei
looked
has
at his list.
Yeah, I mean, Shuhei doesn't have any like super swingy cards that that he can get in there with. So
yeah, a lot of these synergy decks, these linear decks that we get in Modern Masters Draft here, are individually not that powerful, and then when put together with other light cards, they become incredibly powerful. But that does mean that there isn't that huge game swinging play available. Like right now, Elspeth wouldn't do a whole lot.
yeah, and Shuhei's got a 1/1 Court Homunculus kind of hanging out there that, like, obviously is not pulling as much weight as any of Reid's cards, whereas most of Reid's cards. So yeah, it looks like Reid deciding what to attack with here because he's got a lot of good options.
All right, Brian Kibler does in fact beat Yuya Watanabe. Apparently, the setup was the 1-2 of Engineered Explosives U. Yeah, it was for 0 to kill all the Goblin tokens and then follow up with Moloku. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, that's the better order to do it into.
I like that order a lot better. All right, so an attack step here from Reid Duke as he just needs to make sure he doesn't make any potentially horrendous errors, and he should be in a really good position.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't have any Slaughter Pact or anything in his deck, I think he's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Since that's a dangerous one.
That is one of the only ways he could lose. And when you start getting down to that level, things are looking pretty good.
So yeah, Shuhei chumps the Valkyrie, takes 4. My guess is what happens is he draws a card and then concedes, but he could draw a nice one. If he draws like a Fairy Mechanist or something along those lines, then he could, live a little bit longer. And either Spellbomb also does the trick.
Hey, there's that Fairy Mechanist that you just mentioned, Luis. Let's see if he can peel something else here. Nope, and that's it. Shuhei Nakamura falls to Reid Duke, who is now 2-0 in the World Championship here. He had a rough go last year.
Well, he's already tied his performance last year.
He has indeed, and right now he's off to a great 2-0 start. And Luis, you were mentioning earlier that the way that the tie breaks work in this tournament mean that these early wins have a lot of extra weight on them.
Yeah, the kind of the way we were explained to them was that, if you went 5-0 and lost twice, you have better tie breaks than someone who went 0-2 and won 5 times.
Wow, so that's a big gap.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the booth, by the way. Marshall Sutcliffe here with Luis Scott-Vargas. We're watching Modern Masters draft here from the World Championship, and it's been great. We've seen quite a few archetypes represented already, and we still have another round to go here
We do.
of Modern Masters draft. Could be anything. There's a few 5-color decks floating around out there. Now, in a normal draft setting, 5-color draft decks
means you did something horribly wrong.
I'm kind of shielding you from this, but yeah, it means you did something horribly wrong, or you're Luis Scott-Vargas. But in Modern Masters, that actually isn't the case. The 5-color domain deck is an actual
with
archetype.
both Kanama's Reach and Search for Tomorrow and Terramorphic Expanse. All at common, then Vivid Lands at uncommon. So you've got a lot of
and
options.
some nice goals to hit as well. Trump the Domains being the premier one, but also Skyreach Manta is a nice
Drag
incentive.
Down Tribal Flames.
So there's a lot of domain cards around that will actually incent you to do that. And as we were browsing some of the decks, we did see some. Maybe we'll even get one on Feature Match next round. It's a fun deck.
I think Kibler's 2-0 as well with 5-color. He has like a 5-color green deck with like Maloku and a bunch of other very powerful cards.
He's also got one card that he's particularly fond of.
Yeah, he's got a Knight of the Reliquary hanging out there.
We were taking a quick look through his deck, and you kind of paused at that, and we're just like, of course.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't he have that, right? So yeah, that was that one. We heard on the other table, so Brian Kibler beat Yuya Watanabe. So so that means that Kibler's going to be 2-0, and so who does that mean he will be facing here? Reid?
Reid and
Ben Stark's also
2-0. I don't know if Ben won this round, or Ben did beat Wesco this round.
He did.
So yeah, Ben is in pod 2.
Okay, right, the pods.
Yeah, and
we'll get that information when we get it. I won't make you try to do any weird math on the fly for that one.
But yeah, we'll see what the 2-0s are. It looks like we've got a couple. We've got Kibler, Ben, and then Willie are all 2-0.
Okay, all right.
As well as Reid.
So let's send it back to the news desk for a little while. A quick chat over there with Rich Hagan. After that, more Modern Masters draft here from the World Championship with myself and Luis. We'll see you guys in just a little bit.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the news desk. We've got a fantastic feature lined up for you in just a couple of minutes, which will be a draft viewer, Reid Duke, who is now 2-0 in his pod, having defeated Josh Utter-Leighton and now Shuhei Nakamura. He will be facing off against Willie Adel for the decisive 3-0. And when we say decisive, remember, this tournament has only 12 rounds across 2 days. So for the two players at the two pods who can get to 3-0, that is a huge stretch towards the top 4. At that point, records somewhere around 8-4, 9-3, absolutely you'd expect would be in the top 4, because this field tends to crunch up mightily as the formats progress. So 4-2 record overnight, very, very strong. Let's take you through the results then from this round. So we had Brian Kibler. He was up against Yuya Watanabe of Japan. Watanabe has fallen to 1-1, and as a result, Brian Kibler is 2-0. In the same pod, you see there it says Tom Martell 0-1 and Martin User 0-1. Well, they are still battling away. They are the last match still going here in round 2, and they are trying to avoid the 0-2 matchup, because at 0-2 somebody ends up 0-3, and it is a long, long way back from there. In the same pod, you have Stanislav Sivka. He is now 1-1, and that means that Li Shichan of Hong Kong is at 0-2 because Sivka won that match by 2-0. And finally, terrific story to tell you about Craig Wesco up against Ben Stark. Now, in this match, as you can see from your screen, Craig Wesco is now 1-1, Ben Stark is at 2-0. But let me tell you what actually happened in that. They had this terrific game 1. Back and forth, back and forth. It was a real sort of war of attrition. They were both going at it. Eventually, Ben manages to sneak out the win. Game 2, bit of a non-event. Ben Stark wins comfortably, it's 2-0. Now, some of you eagle-eyed spectators will have spotted that they were still at the table in the feature match area and still playing Magic. Well, they love Magic, they love Modern Masters, they love Draft, and they said it was a fantastic matchup. And if Game 1 had gone differently, they wanted to see what would have happened if Wesco, in fact, had gone on and won Game 1. So they played a third game fully competitive just for their own self-satisfaction to find out what would have happened in a terrific matchup in a great format. It's no surprise that they are as good at Magic as they are. So that's on that side. Let's go back to the scoreboard and tell you about the other side of the bracket. And I'll tell you what happened in Pod 1. So here it comes on the left of your screen. Well, we had Shahar Shenhar, the Israeli national champion, up against Brazil's Willie Adel, the Latin America rep. And Adel won that one by 2-1, and that means he gets to go to 2-0, and he will face our next guest, Reid Duke, in the final of their draft pod at 2-0. Then you have Shuhei Nakamura against Reid Duke. Well, as you know, Reid won that one, and we'll see how a lot of those draft picks came together in just a moment with Zach Hill at the video wall. Then we have Eric Froelich. Well, Eric Froelich is now 1-1 because he has defeated Dmitry Budakov of the Russian Federation. Dmitry now at 0-2, and he will face in the Basement Challenge David Ochoa at 0-2 because he lost out to Josh Utter-Layton. You saw Josh Utter-Layton draft this morning. It was a terrific deck, and Josh Utter-Layton's deck, it was Cloud Goat Ranger, second Cloud Goat Ranger, Flicker Wisp Cloud Goat Ranger, Flicker Wisp Cloud Goat Ranger. Yeah, that tends to do quite a lot. So that's where we are in terms of the overall scores on the doors. The players will get ready for round 3. But first, let's find out how Reid Duke has got to 2-0. It's time for our first draft viewer of the 2013 World Championship. Let's head over to the video wall.